Hello everyone, welcome back to Chapman Chapters. My name is Kevon, and today is going to be about, based off the uniform, I'm pretty sure you already know it's about Target. I already mentioned my experience or went over my experience on my Snapchat last year when I quit the job, but I am going to redo the story, but also at the same time go over what could possibly fix the store and I guess other stores that's kind of having the same issue. Um, I've been wanting to do this video for a while because I don't think it's just a Target thing. It's a Sam's thing. It's a Walmart thing. And I feel like it's slowly getting worse as time progresses and people are just accepting to what's going on. I mean, yeah, we're making Reddit posts, we're venting to each other about it for therapy, but like there isn't an actual change with the issue. But I'm gonna get started with the story first. Okay, so I started a few days after my birthday, August of last year. And this was after like me mentally healing that I had wrecked my first car, hydroplaned it. That's a whole different story. Anyway, I was working in the electronics section and the first guy, I'm gonna try to go by code names. The first guy, I'm just gonna call him Cap because he always wore a hat. Like 90% of the time when he came into the store, he always wore a hat. He trained me for 2 days. And then the other guy, we're gonna call him Sloth because that's literally what he acted like. He trained me for 2 days. And then I started working by myself. So anyway, I started working with Cap and he gave me a little bit of rundown about how the job works and how it goes in the electronics section. And he gave me a warning. Somebody from a different department gave me a warning. And I think somebody from upstairs, I can't fully remember or not, but they warned me about Sloth before I even got a chance to meet him. They kind of all said the same thing, like, oh, he calls out, or he has a certain way of doing things. He's kind of lazy. And don't get me wrong, like, yeah, even though there's like a lot of people that have opinion about a person, I tend to like to feel the person out myself because it might be different on how they treat you compared to how they treat other people. With that being said, this is one of those cases where what everybody was saying was right, but we'll get to that over time. So once I was done being trained by Cap for like, I want to say, yeah, like I said, 2 days, then I got on with Sloth. Not gonna lie, Sloth actually showed me a really good job as far as showing me the ins and outs with the job than Cap did. I was just like, okay, this is pretty good. You're pretty good at your job. And I even told him, I was like, you seem different than what everybody's been telling me. He's like, oh, for real? I was like, yeah, you seem a bit different. And I want to say for the first good month or two, everything was going great. So I'm going to go over what we actually do in tech so you can kind of get a better understanding on what was going on within the story. So our job in tech is obviously to assist customers, right? But then we're also in charge, like the people in the morning are in charge of truck. All the departments, at least that I know of, get truck. That's how we get more stuff on the shelves and new product, stuff like that. Usually that's done in the morning. Like as soon as you come in, at least we're just speaking just for tech. Usually come in the morning. If they're still working on it, obviously fix up tech, clean up a little bit that hasn't been, or clean up the work that hasn't been done the previous shift before that. I don't know why it took me so long to get that out of my system. But anyway, then once you go back to the back and the people who loads up like the stuff in the boxes from truck, you have your own cage or whatever. But before you can grab the cage, you need to print out a list that shows like some of the expensive items. Sometimes it'll only be like the very expensive stuff that's just on there, just other stuff on there that's like high priority. But I know the PlayStations, the laptops, all that stuff is on this piece of paper. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 sheets, sometimes it's just one. It really just depends how much of a truckload for electronics that came in for that day. So once you're done doing that, you load up, you basically grab the cage, bring it to the floor, make sure you got your keys on you, etc. And obviously you just put out what needs to be put out, and then put what needs to be backstock, what needs to be backstock. But in the process of while you're doing that, you're supposed to check off this white list. This white piece of paper that has a list of those high priority things. Not everything is going to be on there, because not everything on there is high priority. Like, for example, a Target brand cable is not going to be on there, but like headphones, not headphones, well, the expensive ones, of course, but like a Nintendo game, that's going to be on there, PlayStation, that's going to be on there, stuff like that. And while you're in the midst of doing all of that, you should be done before 12. If you're doing what you're supposed to do, you should be done before 12. I'm going to say grabbing truck, I can't even remember what time my shift started. I don't know if it was, I think it was 8 o'clock. I can't remember, but between 8 and 12, you should be working on that, knocking it out of the way. At least when it's doing like their slow times. Busy times where it's like 2 trucks, obviously you need help. But yeah, so sorry for the cutoff. There's like a 3-minute window between each recording. Anyway, I'm gonna make a separate video about that too. But like I was saying before, when it's a busy time, you would probably need 2 people, because it's 2 trucks. Like, and they mainly do that on Black Friday, Christmas, stuff like that. But the slow period, like after Christmas, January, between I don't know, September-ish, truck is usually not that bad, and 1 person can knock it out. But like I said, in the morning, that's usually the person's job. Also, those little promo tags that you guys see, whether you're looking at this video as a customer or you're looking at it as an employee, but obviously if you're an employee, you kind of know what I'm talking about. Those little promo or sales tags that you see, usually the person in the morning is in charge of putting that up, and then the person that's working in the afternoons are in charge of taking them down. Sometimes the person's in charge of doing both, depending what the person was doing in the previous shift. And that goes for morning or night. It just really just depends on what your manager or ETL, whoever the fuck tells you what you need to do. But anyway, mainly that's what morning consists of: truck, and then putting up sales tags. And then sometimes, like, we have this thing called revisions. Sometimes it happen, I believe they said every 2 weeks, once a month, I don't know, but you don't really have to do that often, and there's not much changes. I personally never really did a revision because I didn't have any like actual good proper training on getting it done well. So I'll admit, even though Sloth was lazy, he could do that pretty good. I'll give him credit where it's due. When it came to revisions, he knew what he was doing. I'll give him that. But everything else, no. But yeah, you're in charge of those. Sometimes in the afternoon, you're in charge of doing that too, but mainly like the morning. Okay, so now that I went over mornings, it's time to go over the afternoon, which is, I think, is the hardest shift to do. So if truck's not done in the morning, you are assigned to do that. Or not fully, like not fully done. Just if it's not done in general, you need to finish that first before you do anything else. If it is done, good. That kind of just saves you the trouble. And the reason why I say that is because when you're doing truck and you're pulling stuff from that cage, it needs to be locked. And when you're trying to switch from box to box, product to product, and then you have that traffic coming in the afternoon, it's a little bit harder to do because you're trying to prevent theft from people stealing from the cage, or when you're trying to empty stuff from the box, and then when you're putting it from that 3-tier, it's a lot of stuff going on that you kind of got to keep your eye on during the afternoon. In the morning is a little bit easier because the traffic is not as bad, but in the afternoon, it's very chaotic trying to do truck in the afternoon. But anyway, you have to do that if it's not finished. We also have pulls that we need to do. Pulls is basically you're replenishing to what's been taken off the shelves. So for example, let's say there was 3 Spider-Man games up there and 2 were taken. On a little scanner, it's going to let us know that 2 were taken earlier that day, and we need to go to the back if we have some and replenish it. Pulls is not that bad during the slow times, but during the busier times, that number can be really high. And having to do that on top of everything else, that can be annoying. On top of if you're banging it back and you're the only person that's in tech and somebody needs help on the floor and somebody's calling you on the walkie, you got to stop what you're doing, get on the floor, help them out. It's like I said, it can be pretty chaotic. On top of that, you also have to do reshop, which is basically, let's say somebody goes up front and go, oh, I don't want this controller. I want to, you guys can take it. Like they give it to front desk or whatever. They have a cart for that. They also have a cart for the security things. You also need to put those up and put them in the right spot. It's all these other little things that you have to do in the afternoon. On top of that, with the once we're done, like we just talked about reshop, so I want to say the next thing is the closing manager who's in charge of pools. I think they had to be at like 80%. I just know for me, I know they talked good about the guy, and I do think that he is a nice guy, but he didn't give a fuck about what was going on in tech. He'll pull you. Like, let's say if he's short on people or he need his stuff to be done faster than anybody else or done first before anybody else, he'll pull you from whatever the fuck you're doing and ask you to do some pulls and go to a completely different department. On top of that, like I said before, I don't know if I said it or not, but it's busier in the afternoon. So like if a person needs help in toys, you need to go over there. If a person needs help in books, you need to go over there. If a person needs help to unlock something where the vacuums are because they're locked, you need to go over there. On top of the duties that you already have to do. And guess what you're getting paid to do it? $15 to do all this extra stuff that could probably be shortened if you had one extra person. But Target's not doing that. But anyway, we'll get to that towards now. I just want to go over what morning has to deal with and what the afternoon has to deal with. So, more employees in the morning, less duties, less employees in the afternoon, more duties you have to do. I'm pretty sure you get kind of the theme here. But anyway, I'm going to continue the story. So I want to say about September is when I started seeing what everyone was saying. He was calling out every week or every other week, and I started seeing truck being like from mostly done to half done to barely done to not being touched at all. And I did work some mornings, which was probably like the best times was when I worked morning. I just bonded with people more in the morning and I could get stuff done when I started the day. But whenever I would come in after sloth, it would just be a mess. Like, it's always some excuse about why something was not done. Oh, I had to go do a revision over here and knock this out. Oh, excuse me, I had to go do this over here, blah, 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 blah. And it was like the first couple times, you're like, okay, yeah, you normally do revisions, okay. But then there was just certain times where it was just like, there was nothing for you to do that day, and you decided, oh, I'm just not gonna do truck, or I'm gonna do it later, which is around 12, which doesn't make any sense because by that time, more traffic is coming in. Why aren't you doing it at the beginning of the day? This person is also experienced. They aren't brand new. Like, they've been working at that store for like maybe 2 years, and then they've worked at a different store before that for like a year. And it started to annoy me more and more and more. And then it got to the point where before it got worse between me and the closing manager on him pulling me and stuff, I vented to him one time, and he's like, I understand, your frustration. He's like, you can vent to me whenever, you need to. So I started venting to him about it. So as I was venting to him, I want to say about the fourth or fifth time, he kind of just brought up that I need to speak to the ETL, which is like honestly the only person that was head of tech, because we didn't really have like a manager. And before I continue this part of the story, let me go over the issues that they had with me, because this ends up being brought up later on in the story. So they had an issue with me being on the phone. I would have one AirPod in and I would speak to my sister, because you guys know I moved from North Carolina to move to Missouri, and me and her have a close relationship. And it was almost the same as listening to headphones. I mean, listening to music, and they was actually lenient with that at the time. I apologize if I offended anybody on being on the phone, but like at the same time, I'm just gonna keep it 100. It wasn't a big deal. Customers didn't even know that I was on the phone. They didn't see that it was an issue, because I wasn't being like ghetto, rude, loud, to the point where like it was making other people uncomfortable, or it distracted me from doing what I was doing. Like it didn't change anything on my work performance. And the only people that really knew, it was one day one of the ETLs from up front was walking by, and I had laughed on something that my sister had said. And I don't know why I said yes, but I guess like I just was bold and I didn't give a fuck, mainly because like I felt like I was already a huge difference in tech from arriving there after there was a good associate that had moved up front. But long story short, I was the next best thing that showed up after he had moved to a different position. And he had, like I said, he had came by, he heard me, he had asked me, he was like, were you on the phone? I was like, yeah, sure. But I kind of said it in a way like, it's not really a big deal. Just go back to where you are, which is up front, and then go back doing what I'm doing. He took it a step further and was like, oh, no, you don't need to be doing that. You don't need to be on the phone. Go ahead and hang it up. You don't need to be doing that. Blah, 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 blah. And after that, instead of just dropping it right there, he ended up going up front, letting a few people know. And then over time, that just seemed to be the running rumor over and over again on me being on the phone. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. One day, I think I had came in, and we always have that. Me and Sloth always have that 2-hour window of working together on the same shift before he ends up going home. And I kind of just gave him a subliminal hint on him having to do better. So I basically was giving him subliminal hints on doing better with truck, because he came in and he was like, I'm sorry about truck not being done. I haven't been doing a good job at it. I just haven't, whatever excuse he wanted to throw out there. He was like, he's sorry. And I kind of hit him with the finally one day when truck was completely done. That's how that conversation ended up happening in the first place. So he knows that he's slacking on truck. It's just he's not doing any better. So after that, I finally spoke to the ETL about it, and in the beginning, he was kind of like on my side at first. He's like, oh, I see the work that you do, and I'm glad you're holding tech down. Well, we're already on the topic of the ETL. Like I told you before, it kind of has this like godlike complex to where if it's not really affecting him, he doesn't care. And he's not the only person that's like that. There's other managers in the store where it's not really affecting them and what they're trying to do. They don't care. But like I said, in the beginning, it was, oh, you do a good job. I appreciate what you do, blah, 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 blah. And I'm telling him what was going on with, Sloth, about my issues with him with the truck. And around this time, I was even telling the customers not to do this because it doesn't help my pay. It doesn't do anything for me. But like, I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying this that this is actually what happened. There was actually customers saying, "Who's your manager?" Because you're doing a really good job with, customer service on how you're treating me or whatever. And I had like two or three. Either they wanted me to give the message to the manager or they actually went to a manager. And I remember this one particular time, the ETL was like, "Hey, I just want to give a shout out that Keyon's doing a good job, blah, 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 blah." So like, there's literally evidence of showing that of my work performance back there. So I didn't understand of the events that happened after. So I'm gonna speed this up. So long story short, I spoke to the ETL 2 or 3 more times. Nothing was done. So I ended up wanting to speak to the hiring manager. And in the beginning, before I even continued this part of the story, I had high hopes on this hiring manager because hiring manager, you would think she's for the people. She's, whatever. And overall, she was a nice person before that. I had a good opinion on her at first. But anyway, I had approached her. I think one day I wasn't clocked in and she's like, "Oh, we don't need to be talking about work if you're not clocked on the clock, blah, 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 blah." Like her whole demeanor just completely changed. Like, "You're not clocked in, there's no point." And then there was another time I approached her. It was one of those where, "Oh, we need to talk about it when Patrick comes in, blah, 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 blah." And then eventually, I managed to go in the office when it's just me, her, and the ETL. And her demeanor is she got this attitude just playing with her hair. And the ETL just has this thing where like he's putting the blame on tech itself instead of putting the blame on himself because he's literally the only manager of the area. Like he's not taking responsibility. But I'm going to tell you what happened. So I went to the office. She was sitting at her little office area and he was sitting in the chair closer to the door and I was sitting in the chair across from her office. And first she said like, "Hey, unless you have a particular issue with Sloth, then there's nothing that really she can do." Like she basically tried to say like the issues that I'm dealing with, that's just typical retail, typical work related stuff. And what I was trying to explain to them was this isn't just a me issue. He slows everybody down. Like there's no excuse. I don't know why you're trying to find a way out of this, but I'm telling you guys know that this person is a problem. I know they've been there longer than everyone else that's been coming in after, but like I said before, there's evidence shown that I can hold it down. So y'all can really let him go and tech is going to be fine if y'all hire another person after him. But anyway, then the ETL was like, "You sure y'all don't have any beef? Like, I'm just trying to figure out like what's going on. Like, you sure y'all don't have any beef?" Like, he trying to act brand new in front of her. Like, I haven't addressed my issues about tech. So, I'm gonna speed this up. So, long story short, I spoke to the ETL 2 or 3 more times. Nothing was done. So I ended up wanting to speak to the hiring manager. And in the beginning, before I even continued this part of the story, I had high hopes on this hiring manager because hiring manager, you would think she's for the people. She's, whatever. And overall, she was a nice person before that. I had a good opinion on her at first. But anyway, I had approached her. I think one day I wasn't clocked in and she's like, "Oh, we don't need to be talking about work if you're not clocked on the clock, blah, 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 blah." Like her whole demeanor just completely changed. Like, "You're not clocked in, there's no point." And then there was another time I approached her. It was one of those where, "Oh, we need to talk about it when Patrick comes in, blah, 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 blah." And then eventually, I managed to go in the office when it's just me, her, and the ETL. And her demeanor is she got this attitude just playing with her hair. And the ETL just has this thing where like he's putting the blame on tech itself instead of putting the blame on himself, because he's literally the only manager of the area. Like, he's not taking responsibility. But I'm going to tell you what happened. So I went to the office. She was sitting at her little office area, and he was sitting in the chair closer to the door, and I was sitting in the chair across from her office. And first she said like, hey, unless you have a particular issue with Sloth, then you there's nothing that really she can do. Like, she basically tried to say like the issues that I'm dealing with, that's just typical retail, typical work related stuff. And what I was trying to explain to them was, this isn't just a me issue. He slows everybody down. Like, there's no excuse. There's no, I don't know why y'all trying to find a way out of this, but I'm trying to let you guys know that this person is a problem. I know they've been there longer than everyone else that's been coming in after, but like I said before, there's evidence shown that I can hold it down. So y'all can really let him go, and tech is gonna be fine if y'all hire another person after him. But anyway, then the ETL was like, you sure y'all don't have any beef? Like, I'm just trying to figure out like what's going on. Like, you sure y'all don't have any beef? Like, he trying to act brand new in front of her. Like, I haven't addressed my issues about tech. Basically, he was trying to act brand new before this meeting ever happened. Like, I didn't speak to him. And he was trying to twist the narrative that I had issues with him as a person instead of his work, when it really was just his work. But basically, long story short, the ETL was like, oh, we just need to go back to the basics. Everybody just need to be retaught some things. And it was just like, you're trying to make it seem like we're the problem, when, if I want to be 100% honest, you're the problem. You didn't take it seriously when I addressed it to you multiple times. I don't even think you even spoke to dude, to be honest. But anyway, once all of that was done, and I felt worse after than before the meeting that I had with them, they hit me with the, so are you good to go back to work? I'm like, sure, fine. I went back to work, started doing what I normally do, cleaning up tech, trying to get it together. And before I continue about what happened the next day, one thing I forgot to mention. So remember the important list? Yeah, he wasn't even printing all of those out. I'm talking about Sloth. He wasn't even printing all the sheets that need to be printed out. And I'm not stupid. I know why he did it. It's because he wanted to cover his tracks on, oh, well, if I don't print out the sheets and I say that I only saw one, then I could just complete this sheet and I don't have to complete the others. It's basically, the best way I can explain it is this. So I'm gonna explain it in this scenario. Let's say the pages were 3, right? And he prints out one of them. And let's say he partially does truck or does truck completely, but he only printed out that one paper. But then there's like a box or two sitting somewhere in the back that he needs to find that has priority in there. He doesn't know because he didn't finish printing out those other 2 sheets. It's to cover up not doing extra work that needs to be done. But anyway, the next following day, truck wasn't done and I was slammed with all the stuff I had to do again. I was fed up, and that was when I had said like, this is it. Like, once I'm done with truck, once I'm done cleaning tech, I'm quitting. And I remember I told everybody I needed to tell, and then I had told the closing manager that I was quitting, and he was trying to convince me like a little bit for me to stay. He's like, oh, like, you know, I really need you out there on the floor. Are you really leaving? Blah, 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 blah. And here's my take on the closing manager. And I'm trying to say this with not trying to sound disrespectful, because there's really more I really want to say, but I'm gonna try to keep it as PG as possible. When I was complaining to the closing manager about Sloth, you kept making excuses for him. Like, he kept making excuses for him. Oh, some people work harder than others, or maybe he's going through some stuff at home, or da 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 da. But let that be somebody that's under him on his job. It'd be a big issue. So like I said, all the managers had this mentality of, if it's not affecting their department, and it's not affecting them, they don't care. They don't care. So it got to a point where I stopped caring. I did everything in my power that I could do on speaking to multiple managers, and nobody was listening. So I stopped giving a fuck. Once I was done doing what I was doing, I quit. So, like I said, I finished doing truck, I finished doing my little bit of pulls, and then I left like 2 hours early, and it felt like a huge weight was just lifted off my shoulders after I left that night. And I guess we'll go over the aftermath, and then I'll just go over like my opinion on the store and what needs to be fixed after. But let's go over the aftermath. So I'm gonna explain it in this scenario. Let's say the pages were 3, right? And he prints out one of them. And let's say he partially does truck or does truck completely, but he only printed out that one paper. But then there's like a box or two sitting somewhere in the back that he needs to find that has priority in there. He doesn't know because he didn't finish printing out those other 2 sheets. It's to cover up not doing extra work that needs to be done. But anyway, the next following day, truck wasn't done, and I was slammed with all the stuff I had to do again. I was fed up, and that was when I had said, like, this is it. Like, once I'm done with truck, once I'm done cleaning tech, I'm quitting. And I remember I told everybody I needed to tell, and then I had told the closing manager that I was quitting, and he was trying to convince me like a little bit for me to stay. He's like, oh, like, you know, I really need you out there on the floor. Are you really leaving? Blah, 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 blah. And here's my take on the closing manager. And I'm trying to say this with not trying to sound disrespectful, because there's really more I really want to say, but I'm going to try to keep it as PG as possible. When I was complaining to the closing manager about Sloth, you kept making excuses for him. Like, he kept making excuses for him. Oh, some people work harder than others, or maybe he's going through some stuff at home, or da 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 da. But let that be somebody that's under him on his job. It'd be a big issue. So like I said, all the managers had this mentality of, if it's not affecting their department and it's not affecting them, they don't care. They don't care. So it got to a point where I stopped caring. I did everything in my power that I could do on speaking to multiple managers, and nobody was listening. So I stopped giving a fuck. Once I was done doing what I was doing, I quit. So, like I said, I finished doing truck, I finished doing my little bit of pulls, and then I left like 2 hours early, and it felt like a huge weight was just lifted off my shoulders after I left that night. And I guess we'll go over the aftermath, and then I'll just go over like my opinion on the store and what needs to be fixed after. But let's go over the aftermath. So the day after I quit, they actually ended up firing Sloth. Supposedly, this is what was told, that they were already in the works of firing him. I just find it kind of funny, the day after I quit, y'all finally decided to get rid of him after me preaching and preaching and preaching, and he done called out so many times. He done slowed everybody down and truck so many times. I find it hard to believe that y'all were in the works and it just happened the day after I left. I don't know. It just seemed like a cop-out answer. She changed my schedule in the mornings instead of me working afternoon most of the time. Because the other guy could work afternoons. He just didn't want to. Not Cap, because Cap was in school. Oh, excuse me. But the other guy, Sloth, yeah, he would go home and hop straight onto the game. Like, he could have worked afternoons. I really can't remember what else, really. I want to say like weeks later, people started quitting as a domino effect after I quit. because they understood like the amount of work compared to the amount of pay, and there's a lot of responsibility when it comes to working in tech. So I'm kind of glad that I was that guy to show an example to the other people that quit after, like, you know, you don't have to deal with this. Like, there's other places that's going to value you more for the same pay or more. Like, it's just not worth it. But that's really the aftermath on after I quit. So we'll go over on how the store could possibly fix itself. Same thing they kind of did with Black Friday around that time, and then Christmas, which is like December or whatever. There should be an opener, a mid, and a closer. I'm not saying it has to be in every single position, every single area, but I'm saying with as long as that store has been there over 20 plus years, y'all know when we need extra help, when a certain area needs extra people. I don't know why y'all keep doing this whole having this one person do two or three, like this one person doing two or three people's jobs, when if they just had more help, stuff would be done, stuff would be more organized. I don't know why Target's doing that. And then this whole we're a team, that's bullshit. It's really just team members stick together and stick with themselves, the ones that's actually doing their job, and then it's just the managers that care about themselves. I will say there's one or two that was good at that store. They know who they are because I spoke to them before I left, but it doesn't cancel out the multiple bad seeds of managers that are there. Like, it doesn't change that. That also doesn't help that the new store manager is a completely different person than the previous store manager. The other store manager, I kind of liked his mindset. You didn't even really know he was a store manager because he wasn't on a power trip. Like, I came in with a hat on, he didn't care. As long as it wasn't something that was distracting or my work was being done, he didn't care. Once the new store manager came around, this was a little shortly after I left, that's when all these unnecessary rules started coming in. It's like, what happens to you can have your headphones in, you can have your little coffee drink down there. You're already only paying motherfuckers $15. Let them do what they can. Let them give them a little bit of leeway. But you adding these rules on top of that, on top of the many responsibilities they have, you wonder why motherfuckers don't want to stay. And I feel like I said, these managers, these higher ups, they don't care about that. And I know it's probably never gonna happen as far as them adding more people, is because they're gonna have them lose money. So if we want to talk about losing money, here's plan B, is everybody just gonna have to leave. All the team members, y'all just gonna have to leave. I get it. Your situation's different from mine. Financially, situational, I get it. Some of you have to work there, whether it's for school, it works with your schedule. I get it. But I'm saying if you have an opportunity to leave, I would recommend leaving. And anybody who comes after, don't even waste your time trying to join. And I felt like if the store have less people to where they can't keep trying to keep up on having one person do a 3-person job or a 2-person job, it's going to force their hand to hire more people. It's going to force their hand to address the issues that needs to be addressed. Because now they're losing people, they're losing stuff that needs to be done. The store is basically a disaster. And I'm not just saying just for the store that I worked at, I'm saying for different Targets in general. That's the only way change is actually going to happen. Going on Reddit and coming as a community, that's fine. I mean, I go on there and I feel bad all the time, and I feel like it's therapy that there's other people that's experiencing the same thing or has experienced the same thing. But the only way something's going to change is if you actually hurt their pockets. Other than that, Target is just going to continue to cut corners. The pay's still going to be the same. Nothing's going to change. And if nobody haven't told you, a manager haven't told you, I know some of you hard workers out there that's busting your ass every day and it's not being noticed, or they're not giving you enough. They're just rewarding you these half-ass pizza parties, donuts, whatever, instead of giving you more money. I get it, or a better position or whatever. But the only way you're going to get that is if you leave, like I did. It's the only way, because they don't care. They can just easily get rid of you and find some other college student that they can put on part-time, but they don't have to worry about a raise because they're going to end up leaving anyway to replace you. Which is why I said, which goes back to what I originally said. The only way it's going to change is if the team members themselves make a change, because otherwise nobody cares. But that's all I can really say. Like I said, I really don't know what else to say. I mainly did this because I felt like some people do need to hear this. And this was also therapy for me because I was still hurt even after I had quit the job. It just felt like all the hard work I put in, it just didn't matter. And I know there's other people that felt the same way I felt, or feeling the same way I feel. But yeah, I feel like that's the only way change is gonna happen. But I thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.